afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for part two of our discussion, our deliberate dialogue on what's going on around us. Part one this morning was a very fruitful, impactful, and powerful conversation that we all were able to have with each other. And I'm hoping that we can continue throughout this experience for the afternoon to have the same. So we're going to get started by turning the camera and the mic over to Mission and Ministry and Patrick McKenzie as they're going to start and open things up with prayer.
Morning, or good afternoon, excuse me. I'm going to be praying with everyone today. Thank you, Janae and Dreves, for inviting us to this conversation and for inviting us to begin with prayer as we begin all things on campus. So we'll just take a moment to be aware of God's presence as God is always with us. I invite you to be aware of what's stirring in you, whether it's frustration or anger or sadness or hope, and sit with that as we pray. And we remember the lives of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, and the many, many more who have been taken by racially charged violence. And we pray. Gracious God, you created all of us in your image. Open our hearts and minds to this reality. Let us recognize that we are all your beloved sons and daughters. You are community. Father, Son, and Spirit. Help us to foster community in our neighborhoods. Teach us to be one as you are one. Teach us to love as you love. Open our eyes to the sin of racism. Show us where it exists in our society. And please grant us the courage to denounce it, but with a loving heart like yours. Enlighten our minds and be aware of our own weaknesses, and gently teach us not to act out of our own biases. Teach us to celebrate our differences and to see diversity as a strength. Please grant us the grace to work together for an end to racism in our world. We long to live together in your kingdom as brothers and sisters. Amen.
And thank you so much, Maria, for sharing. And I apologize for saying Patrick initially.
No worries.
Thank you for being here with us and for getting involved. I just want to address a few housekeeping items before we get started with this session. It's important that everybody keeps themselves on mute. If you have an opportunity where you're, compelled to contribute to the conversation, just write into the chat, Dries, I would like to speak. There's also a raise your hand feature through Zoom. If you're not able to locate that, you can simply just say in the chat, Dries, I'd like to speak, and I will zoom in on you and your face and also your voice. And if you rather just have your voice, that's fine as well, whatever you prefer there. So again, just making sure that we keep everything on mute until we have an opportunity to come to you so we can have clear, open communication. We ask everybody to come to us this afternoon now, as we did this morning, with just open minds, open hearts. The goal of this experience is for us all to listen just with an open mind and an open heart and treat ourselves like sponges and really try and soak up as much information and knowledge and reflection that we can from our students and from each other. We also encourage everyone to be brave and open and allow this to be a space of authenticity. So please bring your authentic self, your authentic comments, your authentic questions, and being respectful of those that you may not agree with or you may not have heard before. And we're going to move into our next part of the program. Father Thorne is going to share a few words with us. And Father Thorne, we're going to come to you. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a blessing to be with you today. As you all know, I am the pastor of St. Martin de Porres Catholic Church at 24th and Lehigh in North Philadelphia. So it's right in the middle. I actually grew up in this neighborhood. It's right in the middle of many of the realities of racism that we've seen in our city. It's actually in my backyard here. So I want to make just 3 points today to kind of help frame the conversation, if I could. I want to thank Dries and Ms. Janae for the opportunity to be part of this today. But my first point is to be a word of encouragement, and to encourage us to have these conversations. I teach in theology at Neumann, still as an adjunct, and I always encourage my students that the place for courageous conversations, difficult dialogue, ought to be a place like this. So I encourage us to do just that, to bring our full self and to have these conversations. It's not the first time we've addressed racism, and it should not be the last. We've had many conversations in the past. I've given presentations on the U.S. Bishop's document on racial healing called Open Wide Our Hearts. In fact, I'm going to do another session next Monday as a follow-up, because we can never get enough information. So this is part of an ongoing series. Sadly, the murder of George Floyd, use that word specifically, the murder of that man, it wasn't the first and it won't be the last. And so we just can't have a one and done, say a prayer, have a rally and just move on. It should be part of the ongoing conversations we have. My second point is that we do so in the context of the fact that we are a Catholic Franciscan university. And that's very important. We're not in the locker room or a bar or on the street. We are people who are part of an education institution. So we should always be seeking to learn. A lot of things talked about classes, and that got me excited, because that's how we learn and grow. All of us, lifelong learners. We do so with a deep respect. Our rises, our values are baked in who we are at Neumann. So we don't have to go very far to know what we should be doing. We talked about race being a social construct. It is. It also, from a spiritual perspective, it's a sin. I think it's very important to say that as a priest and as a Catholic university, whether you're Catholic or not, we see this as an attack on God. That the fact that God made us just as God made us to be. And we should always be respecting the human person that's in front of us. Finally, I want to just encourage us to act. We had a lot of great insights at our last session, and I hope today will be the same, this one. We need to not just simply talk, but to act. Because one of my favorite phrases is, when you pray, move your feet. So you just can't talk about it and pray and ask God to fix it. We have to do some work. And I'm going to say this because before I can get into it again, our students are coming back to community in the fall, having experienced historic pandemic. COVID was a trauma for our country. And we saw racial disparity raise its head. Many people got the hook up with the PPP program, and some folks lost their jobs. Okay, and also we know healthcare, all those mental health issues, all those things were part of that experience, and also the murder of George Floyd, and the fact we're going into an election season. So all the more reason why we should get out in front of this and listen to our students and serve their needs. We are here for them. I always tell my students, I work for you. And so I hope that's a context where we can go for our conversation today. I'm happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for getting involved and joining us for part two. And I just want to note there are lots of new faces who are in the Zoom chat. So that's very exciting and refreshing to know that we've definitely carried on some of our audience from part one, but we also have some new faces and some new students, which is really good, who were not a part of the first experience. So I'm going to move along, and I wanted to give Dean Bridget Haynes Frank an opportunity to share a few words at the top of the call before we moved forward. Bridget?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm looking for your face. There you go. Okay, now I can spotlight you. How are you?
Good, I'm good. So thank you, Dries, for giving me an opportunity to share a few words. I wanted to share that, I was in the first town hall. Both Erin and myself from the Office of the Dean of Students were there listening. We are here again listening this afternoon to the voices of our students, and some things that had come up in the last town hall that I want to make sure that we talk about is that we are working to make it more accessible for students to file reports related to issues of harassment, discrimination, or bias. And so I am going to share in the chat a link to a website, which you can do so. I know some students have shared that they have felt fear of retaliation or fear to come forward. In this new reporting system, you can list your name as anonymous. So you can make the university aware of things if you're uncomfortable attaching your name to it. And so I would encourage you to utilize that platform as you're sharing your concerns so that we can look into these matters and make sure that they are addressed through our university process. And so again, I want to thank everyone who is participating. I want to thank Dries and Mrs. Ryder for organizing this event, and Erin and I are here listening with both open minds and open hearts. So thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. We appreciate it. All right. Okay. So we're going to move along. For our new viewers who didn't have an opportunity to see the video that we showed at our 11 o'clock Zoom meeting, this is a video that was shared with me by my grandma, and I really thought that it was powerful, and it really encompasses a lot of the emotions and some of the feelings that have spawned out of this scenario with George Floyd and racial injustices and police brutality and as such. So I'm going to share this with you all, and we'll take a look at that. It's a brief video, and then we'll get ready to start with our conversation, part 2 of our conversation.
I dare you. Ask yourself,
I'm asking you to
when did my baby become a threat to you?
When I cried, when I started to crawl, when I started to speak, when I started to run, when I started to dream, when I laughed for joy, when I played with my toy gun, when I learned to read,
when my jeans were too baggy,
when I wore a hoodie,
when I drove a car,
when I left the library late from studying,
when I protect my family,
when you need jail cells filled,
when I'm less than perfect,
when I went for a run,
when I went to the store,
when I fought for your country,
when I held my arms and my hands high,
when I finally earned my degree,
when I loved with my heart and soul,
when I sat enjoying my coffee,
when I go for a job interview,
when the dictation of my speech was not like yours,
when white women become uncomfortable,
when I protested the injustice of the cage you built,
when I wear a mask to protect you and myself,
when I raise my voice,
when I move too fast,
when I breathe.
When did my baby become a threat to you?
When I was born.
When did my baby become a threat to you?
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Bring with the harmonies of liberty.
Next up, I'm going to introduce, if you weren't here at 11 o'clock, we started a group, our students started a group rather, called Brothers Take Action, and Mrs. Ryder and I have been working with them throughout the fall semester. Things started around Black History Month, and we have a few members of the group who are in this call here. Darius Turner's here, Alundis Isaac, and Eric Kinney. They're all back, and Alundis Isaac is the newest voice, so we're going to allow him to start first with his reflection, and then we're going to move along with the conversation. So Alundis, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me find your face. There you go. Okay, I'm going to put you to the screen, and I'm going to turn it on over to you, Alundis.
So during this time, well, first let me start off. My name is Alundis Isaac, and I am a sophomore now at Neumann University. We all started Brothers Take Action. Also followed on Instagram. It is brothers.take.action. Brothers is spelled BROTHAS. And we started this group because we all saw that at Neumann there was maybe sort of kind of like a how do you say, just not necessarily a problem, but in the Black community there, we needed more representation than what we thought we had, because the discrepancy between those Black guys or Black males that are doing well and the ones that are doing bad, it just can show. So we started this group to kind of bridge that gap because that's what we really want to do. And during this time, to open up to ask a question, I wanted to know, how do people feel during this time? Like all of you, no matter what race you are, what gender you are, your religious denomination. I just want to know, how does everyone feel? Because everyone has mixed emotions about things that are going on. Everyone has different opinions. So I really want to know, how does it feel to know that we are going through a movement like this right now?
And Alundis, would you mind just kind of starting that conversation, just reflecting on how you're feeling as a young Black man? Because when you came to me with the conversation and the question, it was like powerful, because I hadn't even stopped to really do like a check-in on my own to say, wow, how am I feeling? I've just been on the phone with students, absorbing all of how they're feeling, on the phone with my grandparents, my young siblings, and absorbing how they're feeling, some of whom live in the backyard of Philly and are in the midst of everything. And I haven't really had the opportunity to really unplug and address my own feelings as a Black gay male in this experience. So how are you feeling?
Me personally, it kind of, like, when you're looking at it from where I'm at, it's something that's expected. And then when you say it's something that's expected, that kind of hurts. Like, to think that, oh, you've seen this almost every single day. A cop or someone murdering a Black male again. It's like, that just, it just hurts. Especially to know that I have brothers, I have sisters, and the fact that I have to go speak to my 12-year-old little brother, talk to him and ask him how he feels about this, and him telling me that it's sad that I was born into this just because of the color of my skin, it kind of just hits home, because why? Why? It's just why, to be honest. Why?
Thank you for sharing, and thanks for taking a moment to get involved. So we're going to give folks the opportunity to chime in. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, just type into the chat. Please call on me, Dries. Dries, I'd like to speak. I'm going to go, we already have some comments already. I'm going to go to Jada Wilson first, and then Ashley, I'm going to come to you next. And this is open dialogue about your feelings about anything kind of going on around right now. Jada? Jada,
okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you were on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
You in the car, my sister. Go ahead.
I just got off of work. So all this stuff, I try to, when I look at someone I don't like, I know that there's like a hidden bias in my mind, because we're human, we're not all perfect. I love all people, no matter what you do to me. You could literally run me over and I still love you. I will still like literally cry because I care for you, even if you hate me. I've seen racism like within, like, I'm an RA, so within like the residence hall, I've seen it. I'm a vice president of a club, I've seen it. And right now I feel challenged to make a change and use my voice. I was kind of like, everyone says that I'm an activist. I'll admit I'm an activist. I will always advocate for anybody who is maybe not willing to. I will take the time out to figure out how to navigate that. So I didn't want to protest because I didn't want myself to get too angry and hurt someone's feelings. And then, like, after sitting on it, I was like, you know what, I have a voice, it's time to stand up and do something and use it. So I went to a protest, and I was one of the leaders of the protest, and it felt good to be able to use my voice to actually make a change in the world. And I also challenged myself to like help people open up their minds. Like, you don't have to agree to me, but just listen to what I hear, like what I'm saying to you. It might change your mind, it might not. I just want you to hear me. But it does make me sad that like my boyfriend has to fear for his life when he gets pulled over, or when we go out in public, if I have a purse, someone's staring at me. It makes me not even want to carry a purse. If I take too long, like in an aisle, I get looks. I hate that. If I'm at Target, like putting my stuff in self-checkout, if I'm by myself or even with like my best friend, I get looks. People are like, do you need help? No, I'm fine. Why can't you help the white woman next to me or the white male next to me? Why is it me? And that's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Jada, thank you for your comment, and thank you for getting involved, and keep hope alive. I'm going to go to Ashley. Ashley.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, let me find your face, my sister. Let me find your face.
Ooh.
Some Wi-Fi channel. There we go. Okay. All right, Ashley, good afternoon. And what's your comment?
Okay, so hey everyone. So I have like three main things that I'm going to say. The first thing is that number one, it's like really hard just being like in America right now. I got my driver's license like a few months ago, and I always was like, yo, I want a car, I want a car, I want a car. But now, being to know the situation that we're going in now, I'm actually scared for my life. And like, if I was to ever get pulled over by a police officer or anything like that, I would literally just probably start break down and start crying simply because of the fact that I'm scared, regardless of the fact of if I did anything wrong or if anything was like something was wrong with the car or anything. Regardless of the situation, I automatically would be scared just because of the color of my skin. And that's how a lot of us feel. That's how a lot of us feel like on a daily basis. But despite that, I just want to take a moment to say like thank you to Neumann, thank you to our Black staff, thank you to our white staff for just supporting us and standing with us in the midst of this chaos. And together, eventually, soon, we can hopefully try and get things going in like a better direction than what they're going now. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is to any Black person or to any Black child, any Black female or male, just know that you are beautiful and you are strong, and there is nothing in this world that you cannot do despite what people might think of you or despite the color of your skin. Um, People like things like this happen so that awareness can be brought. And as long as we keep bringing awareness to the issue and as long as we keep pushing for change, know that eventually something is going to have to happen. But in the meantime, just continue to be strong, continue to push through, continue to fight for what you believe in and stand up for what you believe in. And in the meantime, to my white family, my white friends, my white, peers, thank you for standing with us because it can't be easy all the time. But just understand that while we fear for our lives, it's very comforting knowing that there are people who don't look like us that are fearing for our lives as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, for your comment. Darius, I'm coming to you next.
Hello.
All right, Darius, I'm going to extend your screen, and you might have to speak up because the mic was a little low.
Okay, so my name is Darius Turner. I am now a sophomore at Neumann University, and I'm one of the founding members of Brothers Take Action. And one thing that I brought up in the last conversation at 11 o'clock was uncomfortable convos that need to be had. And some of the topics that I thought of, me and my friends thought of, was white privilege, rioting and looting, the racial wealth gap, biases in healthcare, the mental health of Black people, and police brutality against African Americans. For me personally, being a Black man in America is like looking over my shoulder every step I take because so I could feel reassured that I did nothing wrong. The situation with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery are realistic possibilities for Black people in America. And like, it's to the point where my parents come to me saying that they're scared that I might not come home. And I wouldn't say it's surreal, but it's heartfelt. And it's like, how has it come to this? So as far as taking action against it, I found a quote during the little break that we had between the last conversation and this one. I don't know who quoted this, but it says, "This is a little story about four people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about it because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done." So that's one thing I would like to give to y'all. And my final question is like, how can or what are other uncomfortable convos that should be had, and how can we address these uncomfortable conversations and take actions against it?
Thank you, Darius. And we are going to go to Allie. Allie, good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
What's your comment?
Okay. So, I just have like a couple things to say. So, number one, I just feel really, really like, what is the word? Overwhelmed, because it's a lot to take in. And I know that for everyone, like, it's just everywhere, you know, on the news, on social media, like, everything is everywhere. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. But I think that while it is overwhelming, it's a good opportunity for people to educate themselves if they haven't already. And I think that with everything, especially on social media, about, you know, just bringing awareness to what's going on, I think it's actually somewhat empowering, because now it's like people are able to use their voices, whether they're Black or not. They're able to come and feel comfortable. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that the conversation is starting, like what do you call it? The ice is starting to break, because at first everyone was like, I don't really want to talk about race, you know, it may make someone uncomfortable or whatever. But I feel like now it's becoming more of not an easier topic, but I just think people are able to talk about it. And I think that this is a conversation that needed to be had. And I know someone had mentioned it, but George Floyd is not the first person who has been a victim of police brutality. And unfortunately, he's not going to be the last. So I really hope that we are really realizing this, because it's something that needs to continue to be talked about. As of right now on social media, you know, it's like, oh, everyone wants to post a black screen. Everybody wants to post stuff on their stories. But like, I feel that that energy needs to be carried through from this point forward, whether that's, you know, being involved in protests or signing petitions or texting and calling the numbers dedicated to, you know, the different cases going on. I think that definitely that energy needs to continue, because if not, then I think it would be just like, in a sense, it'd be fake, and it would just be people are just doing this just to be, you know, involved just for the time being. But I think that everyone just needs to keep the same energy beyond, you know, when this quote unquote dies down, because like I said, this is not going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. And it's really heartbreaking to say that. And, you know, it just is also sad, because, you know, I have friends and I have family who could literally go out and not come home. That's something that's very scary. And if it's not scary to you, I think that you should be scared. Like, even if you aren't Black, if you have Black friends, if you have Black coworkers, if you have peers, you know, in school that go to school with you and they're Black, like, you should just know that you really need to be speaking out during this time. I don't want to keep rambling, but yeah, so that was all I had to say.
Thank you, Allie. You're not rambling. I appreciate your comment, and thank you for getting involved. Okay. We're going to move to Maya McQueen, and then Leanna, we're coming to you next. Maya McQueen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Do you have your camera on, Maya?
Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second so I can extend your screen. You're good. What's your comment?
So hi, I'm Maya McQueen, and I will be a rising senior at Neumann. I would just say for me, just like even since the whole pandemic started, like I've just more focusing on like my spirituality and like just trying to build a better relationship with God. I found myself losing that while being at Neumann. So I guess for me, just like hearing everything that's been going on, and for me, the first thing that I thought of was Trayvon Martin, because I was 13 years old, so that was the age for me when I was really able to like put pieces together. Like, this is the world that I live in, where just because of the color of my skin, just by walking to the store, like something can happen to me. So when I heard about this happening again, like the whole Trayvon Martin story just like stood back in my mind, and I just had to take a break from social media because it's just the negativity. And it's like at first I was just like really upset and I just didn't know how to handle everything. So that's why I stepped away from the socials, and I just tried to like just like pray to God and just figure out like for myself. And it's just like really hard because for me, I've always found myself constantly texting like my male friends and saying like, I love you, like you're special, you're beautiful. And it's just like to this point, it's kind of like tiring. Like how many times do I have to text like my male friends and tell them that like, no matter what, like I love them and like to always be safe and everything. And it's like scary because it's like kind of like what everybody else is saying, like that can be any of us of color. And it's like also crazy because I work with children, and it's like so many of us in this world, we have so many gifts, we have so many things we can offer to each other. And it's like instead of taking the time out to realize what we can give to each other and how we can help each other, is more so like we're like bringing like each other down because of like the color of our skin, and it's just not fair. But I guess for me, like another thing I really try to do is just be at peace and pray. Like that's just been my motto, like peace, pray, change. Just because I know just for me, like the power of prayer is really strong if a lot of people just really, you know, put the time out to do it. And even the power of protest is strong. But for me right now, like praying and like working with different people and just like trying to build up like the communities, especially the children, like in situations like this, the first thing I go to think about is the children, because they're like the generation of the future. And it's like they should not be scared to be a writer. They should not be scared to be an artist. They should not be scared to be a musician. They shouldn't be scared to really do anything that they want to do in the world just because of their color of their skin. So for me, I just been trying to be at peace, but then I understand that I'm upset and confused, and that's also something that I could, you know, talk about. But I just try to, you know, also keep the positivity for the children and just let them know that they can still be great, they can still be. And I'll also say the same thing to my friends and everyone else. Like you can still be who you are. Don't let like this type of situation like bring down your light. Like you can still shine. God is still, he's with us at all times. And I know, although I don't really understand what God's plan is, because that's another thing that's spread around, especially in the church, that God has a purpose and plan for everything. Like even though I don't understand like why this happens in the world and why this is so quote unquote like God's purpose and plan, like I still just pray that we're just going to find the light in everything. So that's just my piece on everything.
You're on mute, Dries.
I am on mute. I said thank you for sharing and thanks for getting involved. I'm going to move to Leanna. Thanks, Janae.
Hello, everyone. My name's Leanna. I'm going to be a junior. I don't know what to say. My heart is getting ready to ask the question I want to ask, because I feel like this is a very moving issue and it's a discussion that should have been already had. So I guess my question is mainly like, what does Neumann plan to do differently to make race or racism a very openly discussed topic on the campus and just within the overall life or whatever just campus? Race is an issue that has been or inbred within America, and I feel like this is a issue that we should not just not having. I guess my question is, what to
I think we may have lost Leanna due to technology, and she was breaking up while she was speaking. So I got the essence of her question was, what does Neumann plan to do differently to make race and racism in that conversation, keeping the conversation going, and also kind of with action as well. And that was her question that she wanted to pose. So if there's anyone that wants to address that question who may be here from administration that would like to tackle that, we're happy to put you on, but we'll keep her question in the parking lot in one of the first spaces. And we're gonna go to Lewis. So we did get your question. We didn't lose it, Leanna. We're gonna keep it, but we're gonna allow people the opportunity to address as we go along. Lewis?
Hey, I'm here, Dries.
Hey, good afternoon, and what's your comment?
Hey. So I just wanted to say hello to everyone. My name is Lois Johnson. I work in the Academic Resource Center. And honestly, I'm tired. I mean, that's the best way to put it. I am tired, frustrated, angry, sad, and I could go on and on. But I'm also hopeful in the midst of all of this. I am hopeful for change and peace, and that it allows this time in our country, especially in the midst of a pandemic, that we are able to still come together as, at the end of the day, we're all humans. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, straight, gay, it doesn't matter, we're all humans. And I think that is one of the most important pieces to remember. So hearing all of the students speak so far has truly been beautiful, because it's very hopeful for me to see these students with so many opinions and passionate about what's going on. And I think it's going to lead to positive change, truly. And the one thing that I would just love to share, especially like being a student as well in a master's program, and everything that I'm learning is, reminding yourself that the things that are going on right now, reminding yourself to try to speak in I statements, and reminding yourself it's not everyone. So for example, it's not all police officers that are like this. It is some police officers that feel this way. When I speak, it's not I can't speak for all Black people, because my experience is very, very different than a lot of people's experience. But then there's part of my experience that I can connect with. I can't remember, I think it was Ashley was sharing, Ashley Beasley, just how she got her license recently. And I know for me, just last year, I was pulled over, rightfully so. I'm not going to pretend, rightfully so. But it wasn't, the thought that went through my mind wasn't, oh, why am I being pulled over? It was, is this how I'm going to go right now? And to have that thought go through my mind of, there's so many things I haven't done, there's so many things I haven't said. I just hope that is a message to people that do not have to experience that, to have those thoughts. I hope that it's just, I just hope it is a wake-up call for a lot of people. And I hope that no matter what, that especially everything being in a minority group, in multiple minority groups, being a gay Black male, to just think that, just keeping that open mind that there will be change. And it's just a matter of staying hopeful and being positive, and coming together as one to continue to inspire change. And, things aren't going to happen overnight. They're just not. We've seen it for over 400 years, unfortunately, that it's not going to happen overnight. But deep down, I genuinely believe that there will be change. And you just got to keep chugging forward. So thank you, Dries and Janae, for organizing this. I think it's so incredibly important that this conversation continues.
Thank you for your comment, and thanks for getting involved. I'm going to take it to Dr. Chris Haug. Dr. Haug shared a statement on behalf of Dr. Domes, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to share the screen and give him the opportunity to speak in response to Leanna's question. Dr. Haug?
Hi, everyone. Leanna, I hope you're still on the call, or I hope you've rejoined us. Thank you for your question. Although it kind of was breaking up because of the audio, I think Dries and I kind of captured the essence of what you were asking about. And it seems to me like you're wanting to know what are the action steps. And I want you to know that as Dr. Domes communicated last week, I believe it was on Friday, and this was pretty much over social media. It was on the Nightlife app and on our Neumann Twitter and Instagram accounts. A message is going out to the university community this week, which will outline those action steps. So I think there's between 6 and 8 of them that are going to be going out. And it's not an answer to everything, but it is a start and a step in the right direction. Also, you said, what else is Neumann doing? I just challenge all of us on the call today to remember that we are Neumann. All of us are Neumann, and we all have an opportunity to do something and say something. And so, I know that this is a call for the students, so I, as an administrator, don't want to take up too much airtime, but I wanted to respond to that and offer that up. So is that helpful, Dries? Thank you.
Yes, it is. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Howe. We appreciate it. Jada Wilson. Jada, it's going to come back to you. You had requested to speak. And then Tiffany, I still have you in the queue. And Allie, I'm coming to you after Tiffany.
Okay. As Ashley was talking, like something sparked in my mind. Spring semester, I took multicultural psychology, and I learned about those who are in the LGBTQ community, like myself. We watched a few clips of there was a transgender, like she basically took us through her whole journey of how she became who she is now and how tough it was. We also learned about racism, how to speak to people better, how to get a better understanding of people, and also the diversity workshops that's required for leaders. Those things have impacted me so much, and now when I hear like microaggression, like at my job, I speak up and say something. Like today, my coworker, she said, yeah, he's cute for a white guy. I was like, Savannah, like if someone said, hey, you're cute for a black girl, you would feel away. That's a form of microaggression. I'm not trying to tell you like what to do. I just want you to be more aware of what you're saying, and like how can we like all together make the world a better place. And everyone says I'm always trying to change the world, change the planet. I am a little bit at a time, but we all just need to work together. We all need each other. We all love each other because we wouldn't be working together. And that's all I have to say this time.
Thank you, Jada. Appreciate it. Tiffany Purnell wanted to come to you next. And then Allie, you're still in the queue. After Allie, we're going to go to Eric. So Tiffany.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am the project director for violence prevention on campus through the Department of Justice grant on Office of Violence Against Women. Dries and Shanae, thank you so much for your being proactive. I want to start with that. This morning, I finished Just Mercy, and I want to say I cried, but I wept. I cried very, very hard. I screamed, and I just want to help everyone understand that maybe doesn't quite get it yet, that we're not just marching for Floyd, we're marching for an unjust system. Growing up as a little girl whose father has always been a police officer, and then, watching Just Mercy in my adult life and seeing that there was a Black man who was a business owner on his way home to his family, that because he was on a road where no one else was, and they needed to pin someone for murder and rape of a white young girl, that he was able to be sentenced to death row. It bothers me. It bothers me because I think a lot of times we talk about race, but I don't know if the more in-depth understanding of just existing while Black is a thing. The corruptness of the system behind not just racial remarks that come out of people's mouths, but the unjust convictions of innocent Black men in a system that, I read the the truth at the end, and they were saying that the sheriff for that area was reelected 6 times after they released the man who was innocent after being on death row for many years. 6 times he was reelected. He just stopped working in 2019 after he willingly retired. I wept because my son is 2, as I say, and my son is very cute, right? He's a cute little boy. He beams with joy, and you know, he's very smart. And as a mother, this is how I felt at my gender reveal when I found out I was having a little boy. I just don't know what to say to my son as he grows up. I don't know what to do as a mother to teach him what to do, because I feel like anything he does is still not enough to keep him safe. I remember in my one-on-one, I talked to Dr. Howell, bringing it full circle to the question of what can we do? And I feel like as a society, we're so reactive, and we need to really get proactive. As a prevention specialist, I'm always trying to figure out, you know, how can we be better bystanders? And Jada just kind of talk about that, you know, standing up. And it takes a lot of bravery to do that. It takes a lot of guts to do that. But that's exactly what Brian Stevenson, the attorney in Just Mercy, did. He stood up for the rights of people. And I just feel like one of the things that we, you know, I don't know what Dr. Domes is going to send out, but, you know, people look at my title, and right now I'm with the grant that's just focusing on, you know, sexual assault and dating and domestic violence and stalking. But I did remind Dr. Howe that a part of the grant also, they want us to focus on engaging men in cultural competency and interpersonal violence. And I feel like the essence of bringing in the bystander, the essence of having these conversations that will help prevent us from having so much bottled up, and to be able to navigate this successfully as a team, as a Neumann family, as a Neumann community, would really take us so much further. And so, again, I don't want to take up a lot of time because I am an administrator, but to the students that are on here, thank you so much for speaking up. I have so much more to say, but I know that this conversation will be continued, but do know that although I'm new, I am here with you. I am here for you. We have a lot of work to do. I am thankful to the school, but I'm also in a very vulnerable place right now. So in my emotion, I'm losing my train of thought, so I'm gonna give it back to Dries, but I just wanna tell you all to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep speaking, and to keep bringing the unique you. All of your stories are really hitting my heart as a parent. Ashley, get your car. Get your car. Do not let fear grip you. You know, and congratulations. And to all the other students, just know that it may take some time, but be patient and know that as long as you continue to speak up, solutions will come. Thank you, Trace.
Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing and getting involved. We're going to go to Allie. Allie.
Okay, so I had, like, for students that follow me on Instagram, I had posted something like a notes thing that I wrote myself about everything going on, and I was just rereading it just to see if I can take anything out of it and kind of insert it into this conversation. So one of the sections that I wrote about was what can be done, because we obviously see what's going on. We obviously are aware, and you know, this is actually a time where a lot of people are actually using their voices and things of that nature. So I just wanted to read just something along those lines. So I wrote, whether you are Black, brown, white, or anything in between, you are sensible to know that all these horrendous acts of injustice are here, literally right in front of our faces, and we need to speak on it. If you are of color, it is important that you are defending our community against these injustices, because the next case could be your friend, your sibling, a child, a parent, a relative, or any of your loved ones. Therefore, it is our responsibility to do our part. If you are white, please take this time to reflect on, the privilege you have because of your skin color. You need to speak out against racism, because no matter who or what you are, humanity is on the line at this point. We are all human and need to be treated as such. So with that being said, I just want to follow up with that. I just think kind of what everyone was touching on about, now that we're recognizing the issue, we now need to speak out. And if you see things like Jada had mentioned at her job, microaggression happening, if you see that happening, we need to stand up. And I think as also for students, now that, when we do go back to campus, we need to be speaking out against things that we feel strongly about. If we see something going on that is, something that is involved with things being racist or anything like that, I think we need to come forward. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, because fear is something that anyone would have, when it comes to speaking out against something bad that they have experienced or their friend has experienced. So I just hope that during these times we do find some courage and hope, because with that, we're allowed to speak and we're allowed to be comfortable. And I think a platform like this, we obviously are making some changes in the way that we communicate with one another. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to join this and be able to speak out. And I know there's some people even maybe on here who are fearful and don't want to say what they want, but just know that no matter when you find that courage, you definitely should speak out, because it'll really help and help make a difference. That's all.
Allie, thanks for sharing, and you're getting a lot of virtual love through the chat. So I just wanted to share that to you.
Thank you.
We're going to Eric. Eric, hello, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. You're on.
All right. So I touched on this at 11 o'clock, but I feel like another important thing that applies here, which is allyship and how to be an ally at this time. And, I'm white, many can tell. And I understand my privilege, but to an extent, I feel like I say we as in non-Black people, need to understand that we can use our privilege to an advantage at this time. And, highlight these problems and work towards what needs to be done, which is racial equality. And furthermore, I forget who specifically said it, so I apologize, but they touched on, everyone was posting the black squares and everything. And people tend to post things as trends, and things become very trendy. I feel like it's important as people, everyone in this talk, I feel like, should take an idea from it. But don't allow this to be a trend where it falls off. I feel like you need to understand, and whether or not you can fully understand, me being a white person, I will never fully understand the horrors that a lot of Black people face. But I know that I need to use my platform and use who I am and use what I know towards that goal of racial equality. And we can't allow this to be a trend. And there's a lot of things that people can do to be allies. So I feel like that needs to, that needs to be highlighted. So also, if anybody has ideas on how these students and faculty, even people outside of the community, could be an ally, I would appreciate it if you could say that in the chat, because I want to personally help. I can't speak for everyone, but I know there's a lot of people who want to help in the worst way, and I'm willing to do whatever. So that being said.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the time. Thank you. Alex Marizio. Hello, Alex.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I've got weird stuff popping up from Zoom all over my computer. So Eric, I know that we talked at the 11 o'clock session, and I again just want to thank you for posing the questions around allyship. And so earlier in the chat, I was responding to Darius's question around tough conversations and what kind of tough conversations we have to have, and trying to couple the two together. Like I said on the 11 o'clock chat, I am only one white staff member at Neumann University, and I can only speak for myself. But I think one of the things that we can do as a Neumann community is really begin to encourage the tough conversations to happen more organically and in a way that is built from support and building trust for one another. And I think that that would help with allyship, like from white people. Does that kind of make sense, like what I'm saying? And so I think one of the things that I spoke about was biases, and I know we had a great conversation about the importance of ethics classes earlier, from what Faith was saying and things of that nature. And I think that if we got to an environment where we were able to create conversation at the university that was inclusive to everyone, but if white people were really willing to bring their allyship to the front of those conversations, I think having them organically would be something that would be really great for our university. And so have the tough conversations. I said it earlier in the chat at the 11 o'clock, but like, it's time to not only talk the talk, but let's walk the walk. And, you know, let's do it, educate ourselves. The education does not stop at the end of the week, just like the Instagram trends, like you were saying. And I don't want to take up too much time, but I, again, just wanted to give my appreciation to Dries and Janae and everybody else that spoke, particularly our students from Brothers Take Action, and everyone else. I'm just very happy to be here and be a part of the solution for what is to come for Neumann. So
thank you. And for those just coming into to our Zoom today, if you're interested in joining in on the conversation, please feel free to type in the message, Dries, I'd like to speak, and I'll put you on. Ashley, I'm going to come to you, and then we're going to go to Patrick, and we're going to hopefully get some more students to chime in to hear their voices. Ashley?
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just had like two main questions. So like discussing these things with the Neumann community is good and it's a start for change, but Neumann is just a small part of it. So my first question is it possible to have a conversation with the police department in any county, whether it's Philadelphia, Aston, Delaware County? Is it possible to have a conversation with the police? And the second part is, when it comes to like racial injustices like on campus, is there any way where we can get a diverse group of staff and a diverse group of students to collectively come together and create an informed, I guess like to help fix the problem, so that way we can prevent people thinking like, oh, they weren't represented well, or they didn't feel like they got their point across because they were scared for some reason. So those were the two like just questions that I had to ask.
Thank you, Ashley. Both good questions. Earlier, I know in our 11 o'clock conversation, we had the opportunity to talk a little bit about the diversity council and committee that has been formed from a task force by Dr. Domes, and that is inclusive of different faculty and staff members at the university. So that is happening, and I believe as we continue to grow, or as the group continues to grow, the goal is to extend the invitation to students to be a part of that particular experience. So I wanted to share that one piece there. So we can route you to Sister Pat, and Sister Pat can, elaborate a little bit more about that experience. The question about partnerships with the police, I got a comment here from Tiffany Purnell. And I want to make sure that I share this correctly. We have a partnership with Aston, and now have an officer through the grant that she's working on. So Tiffany might be able to talk a little bit more about that. Tiffany, if you want to chime in a little bit more about that, I'm happy to give you some time to talk about that.
Sure. Sure. No, I was just saying it could be a start. I know when I was hired with the grant, we had a sit down with Aston Police, and they actually designated Detective Tommy G as like a resource officer specifically for Neumann. And so I know that he is like our liaison now, specifically from Aston, and he primarily helps with the grant. But I think that would be a great start, being as though we've now formed, like, kind of enhanced that relationship with Aston Police. One of the ideas that I had to also kind of break the ground, and some campuses do this, is some kind of like public safety game night cookout, something like that, where it's a lighter way to really introduce these conversations. But I was just kind of interjecting to say, I also suggested like using the base of community partnerships and expanding and diversifying our portfolio in that. I know that I'm kind of specific to the grant, but maybe having community partners to help with other diverse segments on campus too will help bring in some external support for the students as well as perspective, and then allow them to also learn our students so that we can bridge that gap that Ashley's talking about. So
Thank you for sharing that. And Ashley, I also wanted to piggyback and share Dr. Haug's comment. He said that students will be included from the start on the Diversity Council. So I would say stay tuned for those details there. I'm going to go to Justin Galashaw. Justin?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Hey, good afternoon. What's your comment?
I just wanted to say, for me personally, that there's a lot of broken trust from the current situation that's going on in the world that is hard to repair. And there's a lot of white people that are close to me personally, so like friends and family friends, and it's not so much with them, but it's like certain things is I don't know. So if I have a friend that's white, I don't know who they know that might be, racist or a little bit bigoted because they don't have that conversation since they don't really have to. I'm not sure who they may know that might not feel the same way that they do about me. And so bringing the person that brought up, checking people on biases, that's really helpful and that's reassuring to know. And also how Eric stated allyship, I think that's the start to help rebuild the trust and to work for a better future. And I see a lot of former professors that I have on this call. And so it's just really good to see the support that is here shown and willing to give. So that's all I really wanted to say. It's good to see that we're working towards a better future, because it is a scary time for everyone, and it's something powerful to see.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate your comment, and thank you for getting involved. We're going to move to Beth Waddell. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
No, you're fine.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So,
comment.
well, I just wanted to go like what off he said. It's like, racism has been taught. It's taught from generation to generation. So what I think is that in order for us to make a change, we need to talk to each other about our own biases, our own stereotypes, our own ideas about other people just because they are Black. It's like, I know a lot of my family members who say microaggressions, who make blatant racist comments, and I'm always the only cousin who says something about it. And that's what I mean by like, it's taught. Like, my family members learn that from their grandparents. And I think that in order for things to change, we need to have a bigger conversation as white people and say, like, look, we have been part of the issue, the whole part of the issue for a very long time. And in order for things to change, we need to come together and talk within ourselves and be like, look, this is not okay. We need things to change, and we have to discuss it in order for things to change. And I know a lot of my family members feel uncomfortable when I say to them, what you just said was not okay. They're like, well, nobody here is of color, so it doesn't matter. I'm just like, well, look, I have family members who are of color. Like, I do. And my person I date is Black. Like, so it's like, the people I care about most are the people who are being the most oppressed. I'm sorry if my camera's shaking. I'm just really, really upset and angry and frustrated. And yeah, I hope that made sense, but that's all I had to say.
It made great sense, and thank you for adding to the conversation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Patrick McKenzie. Patrick, I'm coming to you next.
Thank you, Dries. First, I spoke at the last one, and I spoke assuming that everyone knew where we were coming from, but I work in campus ministry, and I want to answer Eric, who was looking for allies, and just want to let you know that, and all the students who are on here know that, that's what we are trying to do in campus ministry. And many, like all offices, folks that work in Neumann want to be there for students, but I know I can speak for Maria and myself that we want to be a safe place for all students at Neumann, and we work and show up every day to be with you. Ashley, we're on the same page, because what I was going to say is going to resonate with you. One of the things that I wanted to maybe suggest is a former board member for Neumann was former Commissioner Charles Ramsey. He was the commissioner of Philadelphia and of Washington, D.C. And if you're watching the news like I am, he's on CNN almost every day talking about the police perspective. And I think it would be amazing, he still lives in Philadelphia, if we could have him come to campus in the fall if possible. I know that social distancing is going to be a concern maybe, but or maybe we can do a Zoom or Teams kind of a conversation with him. He is a wonderful man who was committed to Neumann, and served on our board, but also committed to two cities that were that had a lot of violence, and he oversaw the police departments in both those cities and transform them. And so I think that it would be valuable to have him come on and share with our student community. And just like Rena pointed out, that Ray Hinton talk a couple of years ago was one of the best things I've seen on campus. We had the community hall was jam-packed, wall to wall with people. And if I would love to see something like that again with maybe Commissioner Ramsey and some other folks that could speak to that. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And Janae, I've shared the hosting privileges with you, so I think we're going to allow you to jump in and continue to co-moderate. And I didn't know if you had comments you wanted to share first, Janae.
No, hi everyone. Thank you, Patrick, for that addition. I was just coming in to support because I know Dries and I have been sitting since about like 10, Dries especially since 10 o'clock this morning. If he needed a break, as I said this morning, that it's important for us to not only listen, but learn and educate ourselves and take action about what is happening, recognizing the impact. I posted a few videos in the chat, one about how to basically address the urgency of intersectionality was one, and how to deconstruct racism, one headline at a time. And I feel like it's important that we start off with resources like that to really learn about ourselves. It's about reflection and understanding what work we have to do. What work we have to do in order to move forward. But also recognizing that racism is something that impacts us all, that racism is something that is a sickness, that it is a sin. And I just put it in the chat, Dries. I wasn't going to share the screen for it.
Okay.
I, just wanted to make sure that everybody, was aware of that, and that racism is a social construct. It's something that was put into place, and this is something that I said in the 11 o'clock session, that it was something that was put into place that was meant to constantly create systems of oppression or superiority and an inferiority. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that, that this is something that we have to constantly uphold. Dries is trying to give me training tactics right now while we're on the thing so that we can unpin Patrick's face on the screen. So you said share my screen. It still has Patrick.
If you flip it back to me, the hosting privileges, I can manage because we're good.
You'll share it for me?
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
And so just making sure that just as we know that that there are social constructs in place that are meant to exclude a set of people, especially Black, Brown, people of different orientations, faiths, all of those practices, if we know that those systems are in place, we have to be intentional about making sure that universities, organizations, corporations create programs and systems that counteract and counter oppose those things that are meant to be exclusionary. And what that looks like, I said earlier, I could give a plethora of things of what that looks like, and that's for another conversation, or we can even talk about that today, but we have to do the work to make sure that we create these avenues of inclusion and acceptance and understanding, because you have to make, even if we're selling a mission, one of my favorite phrases is that you have to make people feel like they belong in order to believe. There isn't a sense of belonging, if there isn't a sense of connection, if there isn't a sense where I feel safe, I don't necessarily want to be a part of anything else. And that there are people that are really there for me. So we have to be aware that there are so many things that are oppositional to success for faces that look like mine, or people that identify with different orientations or identities that don't look like me. So what are we doing to make sure that we counteract, that we go against what we know are the constructs that are pushing people away from what it is that we want to provide for them through development and service, and just care, period. So thank you, Dries, for that, and allowing me to say that. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you, students, for coming forward and being bold. This is a brave space, and we appreciate that. And thank you for administrators and staff and faculty that are present as well.
We're going to switch it. Thanks, Janae. We're going to switch it over to Father Thorne. He has a comment. And again, if you're interested in joining the conversation, just type into the chat or raise your hand and say, you'd like to speak. Father Thorne?
Very briefly, I just want to say, listening to the conversation today, it's very helpful for me as a pastor, as well as a part of the Neumann family. But I don't want us to lose our hope. I think it's very important that we don't lose that. This is a moment, a defining moment for our country and for our university. One of my favorite phrases from Dr. King, Martin Luther King, was, when bad people tear down, good people build up. So we have a moment to do something really great. And many of our great movements in our country have come from college campuses. The great John Lewis was a young man who sparked the nation and still is one of our conscious leaders in righteousness and in morality. So I don't want us to become, I know it's a very heavy conversation, and trust me, I live in the community, and so parts of my neighborhood were bombed last week. So I get it, trust me. And I've been Black my entire life, and I'm gonna die Black. So, and I come out of a church that has the sin of racism on its lips, and so, but I can't lose hope because of my faith in Jesus Christ. And we can't forget that. So I would encourage our students especially, put your anger and your passion into purpose. I think it's very, very important to do that. And we have a moment to really do something really great on our campus. Somebody asked me, did I want to go downtown in Philadelphia and destroy? And I said, I choose not to do that. I choose to destroy systems of oppression. So we have to be, Jesus Christ was an activist. And so we have to move also from ally to activist too, and ask those questions, be brave about it, put people in spaces where we can really talk, because this cannot be simply a Black conversation. It has to include the whole family, the whole family. It's got to include our board. It has to include administration, faculty, staff. It's how we treat the person who works on campus, in housekeeping, and also in other spaces. Again, as somebody who's there were very few of me walking around. I don't mean priests. I mean very few Black people walking around that building, around that space there. So we have to engage the whole family in this, but we cannot lose our hope and move forward and make a difference, because we can't, this is our moment as a people to make a difference for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. M. Harrell, I'm coming to you. M. Harrell.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm looking.
Okay.
Is your oh, yep. Let me just
yeah.
Give me 1 second. You're good. Good afternoon. What's your comment?
Hi, I'm Morgan Harrell. I'll be a senior. I just wanted to speak a little bit to how I've been feeling recently. and like how important it is to value your mental health, because you know, as an African American, seeing everything that's been going on has been very overwhelming, especially on social media. You're just seeing, you know, constant videos of people dying, constant petitions, constant things that people want reopened. You're seeing people argue with each other because of their different opinions, and it's been times where I've had to like take a step back because it's just too much. I don't want to see George Floyd being killed again and again and again, and that's why I think it's important to like keep a balance. Like, you don't have to talk about the negativity in the world all day, every day. Like, if you want to talk about what you're doing today or the things that you enjoy doing, it's okay to have that balance so that you're still being aware of everything that's going on, but also making sure that your mental health's in check. And also, I just wanted to say that I appreciate Neumann and all that they're doing, especially with how they're talking about diversity and everything, and making sure that those conversations are open. But I think it's important to figure out how to create those organic conversations, like you were saying, and like how to go about it. Because there's been a lot of times where I've been the only Black student in my class, and I've heard from other people as well that, you know, if you're talking about, I don't know, like the civil rights movement or something like that, and you're just like, hey, Morgan, like, how do you feel about that? Just because I'm the Black student. And like, it sometimes it's a little uncomfortable because I don't speak for everyone, and you have to be open to hearing different people's opinions about something, not saying, oh, well, Morgan said this is what she experienced, so this is what everyone in the Black community experienced, or this is how she feels about racism, so that just goes. So I think it's important to have the conversations open to everyone and not exactly, you know, automatically giving the conversation to the student that you know is diverse and figuring out like what they have to say about that. So I mean, just starting there and then growing the different conversations, I think will be very helpful in the future.
Morgan, thank you. Very well put. Have a good afternoon. Devin Ferguson, we're going to come to you next.
All right, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I'm going to extend your screen, and good afternoon. You're on.
Good afternoon, thank you. For those of you who I don't know, I joined Neumann as a professor of social work back in August, so I'm relatively new still to the Neumann community, but I first wanted to commend all of the students who have been a part of these conversations and who are organizing the protests, because you are truly living up to the call of leadership that Neumann tries to, you know, encourage all of its students to act in that way. And I just wanted to say, as a faculty member and as a white faculty member, that you know, I was thinking about a lot of the comments that have been shared already, and you know, here we are in all part of an institution of higher education and learning, but especially for those of us who don't identify as people of color, but we must, you know, the call, I think, for us starts with unlearning, right? All of the racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, right? All of the things that we have learned, right? Because we know that race and racism are socially constructed and are taught. We all have unlearning to do, whether as students, staff, faculty, right? None of us is exempt from that call to unlearn the oppressive or discriminatory prejudices and biases that we've learned. And so as a faculty member, and again, as a white faculty member, that is for me the first and ongoing step, right? And also that this is a long process. It's work that we should all be doing every day for the rest of our lives. And I am grateful to be a part of a community that wants to engage in that work, because again, we can do it as individuals, but it's so much more powerful when we can do it as part of a community. So thank you again to all of the students who have been, leading and being such a central part of this conversation. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of this community and this really important ongoing conversation.
Thank you for joining and sharing and getting involved. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move along. If folks still want to join into the conversation, we're approaching about a half hour left. We have another 30 minutes. Please just type into the chat. There are lots of great comments, lots of great conversation happening. I will say, Father Thorne, I heard your thoughts on not losing hope. And Sister Linda, I know you had shared some of those thoughts as well. But I know in talking to some people, just sitting around tables with families and dealing with all of this on top of COVID is a lot. And it's going to take a lot for trust to be regained. There is going to take a lot for trust to be regained. And I don't know what that experience looks like. I've always, tried to have an open heart, and I always went to school with people who looked like me until I got to college. I went to Albright my first year, which is a predominantly white institution, and that wasn't a good fit for me, and I transferred to Widener and loved it. But I didn't experience true racism until I got to Albright and then going to Widener. My heart, because I know we started out initially from Alundis with his question, which was, how do you feel? When I sit and I process and I talk with our students, I am them. And, I've even had some students, to be completely honest, who have called me out on the phone and said, Dries, we watched the Instagram live. We know you couldn't be yourself. You couldn't say certain things because you're at work and you're trying to protect your job. And I said, some of that is true. There's a professional way to address certain situations, but I'm not one who's going to sit silent. And anyone up through President Domes, Dr. Domes, can tell you that I have challenged since I got into the door. The problem that I have is there are some people, and not just at Neumann, but at many institutions, who have a seat at the table that don't use the opportunity. And then you get people who get the seat at the table and want the opportunity, and they're silenced. So we have to continue to all challenge ourselves to be okay having the uncomfortable conversation and having the mirror turned on the ugliness. Because if we can't get to the root and the reality and have an authentic conversation, we won't make any progress. So I want to share that thought there. If there are other thoughts that folks want to chime in on, please feel free to join in. And Janae, Miss Murray, Denise Murray, I'm going to come to you in a second. Let me grab you. Denise, are you there, Miss Denise? You might be on mute, but I saw your hand, Miss Denise.
I think I'm off mute now.
You're off mute. You're good. Good afternoon. And what's your comment?
So I wanted to say that last semester was very interesting for me because it was the first time I had an opportunity to have an all-male group in my class, the Black Male Initiative. And I just learned so much. One of the most important things that I learned is that we as Black people need to have more of our ancestry history in the classroom, because I had just come back from Africa and I was so excited to share some of the experiences that I had. But I also wanted to touch a little bit on trying to understand what information some of our Black males understood. It was so disappointing for me to learn that only 3 of our males in the classroom knew what the Middle Passage was. And I know that as a Black male, you can't begin to understand how to move forward if you don't know where you came from. So I ask students to really think about that. If you think it's important to learn more about your history, where you came from, that is going to be a conversation that you have to have with Neumann. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's a very important point. Paul Riley, did you want to join into the conversation? I see you put a question.
Sure. I just wanted to mention, as I did this morning, because just like today, people said
the Neumann community isn't enough. We need some involvement with the surrounding community. And this morning I mentioned in today's Inquirer, there's an article where the district attorney for Delaware County has charged a man with ethnic intimidation because he was shouting racial slurs at the march last week. And the chief of police of Aston came out in a statement and said, "We hope this prosecution makes clear that the community has no room for such hateful and threatening behavior." And so I was thinking, when you're talking about inviting, the former commissioner of Philadelphia, we might also consider the chief of police of Aston. And because a lot of students had complained this morning also about the racial slurs and intimidation they're experiencing at Wawa, I thought we might reach out to the president and CEO of Wawa. Chris Gaines is a Villanova undergraduate and a St. Joe's University graduate. And he's the president and CEO of Wawa. And I think he might be a useful person to have visit our campus and work on how can we make Wawa an even more welcoming place. I know it's a welcoming place for people with white privilege, but I was shocked to find out today that it's not so welcoming when you got too much melatonin.
Thank you, Paul. That's a good point. Thank you. Janae, I was going to come to you while we have a brief pause from comments. I didn't know if you had anything that you wanted to share.
I'm just listening. Right now, just overwhelmed and trying to contain my own emotion as we reflect on all of this that is taking on and the change. With Dries, I'm also exhausted. I'm tired. This has been work, and I'm glad at the same time that we are having these conversations because I've only been at Neumann. September will be the completion of 4 years. I'm saying my 5th academic year. And I know how exhausted I am with trying to build and continue to build and helping to encourage students and other administrators and staff and faculty that look like me as well. But I'm glad to hear the student voice because it's really needed. We can go down a list of historical facts and data, and I gave some of those things even at our 11 o'clock session to talk about the disparities between income and education and opportunities and resources that have been by law forbidding access to others. And so, we don't have to go down that. I can continually talk about those things, but we won't. In the same vein that Father Thorne spoke about, I'm hopeful because I do see some progress happening, but I'm also hopeful because of my faith and my stance, and believing that the work, the toil, the tears, the sweat, the intellectual prowess and professional disposition that I've been able to maintain is not in vain. To encourage our students and my colleagues at universities across the nation. I encourage anyone that has the time to go onto Twitter and follow a hashtag that says Black in the Ivory. There's a Twitter hashtag right now that is trending that is Black in the Ivory. You can hear stories, narratives of these types of experiences and what persons of color, because I just don't want to say because there are people within that feed that don't identify as Black, experience and what is the fight that is constantly faced every day once we go outside of our doors. So I want you to know that it's true, that there is validity. But I also believe that my faith is true, that this fight is true, and that in the words, that we're going to overcome. I constantly see that we are overcoming. I'm sitting across the table from my 87-year-old grandmother right now, who is a part of my home, is a part of my house. And I'm standing on her legs. She's not strong enough to stand on her own anymore. And I help her every day. And every day that I even put her to bed and provide her with a meal, she's provided so much of a meal and an opportunity for me to succeed. And as my mother worked so hard, I'm in this fight to continue to grow and provide opportunity for others. So I'm asking all the advocates, all the allies to stand up and use your privilege. I don't like to be the heavy at meetings. I don't like to be the person where like Janae's gonna say something about diversity. It goes way beyond diversity because Neumann is diverse, but are we inclusive? Neumann is diverse, but is there equity? Neumann is diverse, but is there equality? And if you have to ask yourself that question, that's equality in service, resource, the way that we treat one another. Love one another as you would like to be loved. And I pray that we keep that before us so that we are not a bad example of Christ. And I can't say that at all universities. I can't say that at all places. And I've worked at non-faith-based institutions, and we can't say that, but I can say that because that is the value that Neumann exclaims. And we want to make sure that all individuals have the same opportunity and see that and I told Dr. Houck this last week, that I have a responsibility because I may be the only Christ that someone else may see. So let your light so shine before men that they can see your good works, but glorify your Father in heaven.
Amen.
Can we say that at Neumann University, people see our light, that they are able to then, from the work that we provide, glorify God in heaven? Or is it glorifying the separatism or inequality or the exclusiveness that is so pervasive within our society? Let's do the work. Let's continue to move forward. Thank you so much, students. I'm so proud of you. You are the reason I come to work every day. You're the reason why I keep fighting. You are the reason why I'm in this work. And so no matter, I know that one day I'm going to hold, a much higher position. So no matter where I am, I take you with me every day into what we do. And I love you all. I love everyone. And I appreciate you dedicating your time to being a part of this conversation. But let's go beyond time. Let's go and use resources. Let's go and use our privilege. Let's go and use our power so that we can bring the change we would like to see at Neumann and across our country and our world. Thank you, Dries.
All right. Father Thorne wanted to chime back in.
I'm kind of speechless. That's kind of hard for a preacher to be speechless, but Ms. Ryder, thank you so much for capturing this conversation so beautifully and really challenging me and challenging all of us. And I guess the word I wanted to share kind of ties back to Mrs. Murray's comment about our history. One of my blessed experiences was to go to South Africa, to Robben Island, to see the experience of where Nelson Mandela spent time in prison and never losing his hope. And so back to my point about hope, hope doesn't mean that I don't have the pain or the struggle, but hope is what Ms. Ryder just said so beautifully as a preacher, that we have to keep moving forward because of where we've been and where we're going, but it cannot just be simply Mrs. Ryder or Mr. Rivers. All of us have got to take our part up, everyone. That's why no one's exempt from this conversation if we're going to be true to who we say we are. We have a choice to decide. And I think it's a good point for all of us to really reflect on, all of us to go do some real soul searching today and make sure we all are picking something. I'm not a rower, I can't swim, but when I drive down the drive there, I know the rowers are all rowing the same way to get the boat to go down the drive. And so we can't have one person sitting there on the side watching. We all got to row the same direction, the same place, the same pace to move the boat forward. And so if all of us get our oar and get in the water and begin to row, we can do some great things and truly be that city on the hill. And that holy hill we say we are. And so that's why I have hope. My hope is dedicated to a man who was dead and the world thought was over, and he came back to life again. And that's what I get up every morning to profess, not just as priest, but as Christian man. So that is the reason why we keep having this conversation. Thank you so much. And Ms. Ryder, thank you for your preach today.
Thank you. And we're going to go to Michael. Michael, your hand's raised, and I'm going to come to you. Michael, you there?
All right, I'm here. Thank you for having me on.
Sure. Good afternoon. What's your
Yeah, those are two tough things to follow, but I'll do my best. It's very easy to feel like you're being bombarded by negativity, and that's sadly because outrage gets the most views, it gets the most subscribers. But goodness is out there. You can find it. I look on Instagram and YouTube and I see officers standing in solidarity with everyone, hugging, standing arm in arm. It is a lot of seek and ye shall find out there. And two movies that helped to teach me about the importance of this is that there was Remember the Titans. I'm sure we've all seen that. And there was We Were Soldiers. The important point that both of those movies made was that the color of your skin is superficial, literally, period. So the next step after that, though, is that once you learn to see everyone in the same light, as you should, you then have to listen to them and learn from them. Like there's this other movie, Green Book, starring Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen. I highly recommend that one too. And I think I'd rather just keep it short and sweet. I hope to see y'all at the. I'm going to the kneeling event tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing and getting involved. I wanted to get some comments that were off of the chat. Ashley Beasley, this conversation is good to have. However, if we bring programs to Neumann to help bridge this gap and heal us or help us heal, we have to be present because speaking alone in this small community will not be enough. So we need to expand those opportunities and get more voices at the table, which I know is very important. Sister Pat, hope for me is the fact that so many students, faculty, staff, and members of administration chose to participate in this conversation today. Thanks to everyone. It's a good one there. And we have about 18 more minutes to go. So if we have any other comments that folks want to share and chime in, please feel free to raise your hand or type in if you'd like to share, and we'll come to you. Jada, I'm going to come to you.
Okay. I missed the. I must have missed a comment, or maybe it was in the 11 o'clock session about the Wawa situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I work at Aston and Wawa as well, and when I come into work, I'm very observant. You could probably tell I'm looking around right now. There's nothing to look at except for my dog. But I'm very observant, and when Neumann students do come into Wawa, a lot of them are disrespectful. Maybe because they feel like they're going to be watched because they're people think that they're going to steal. But I've seen people take sandwiches off the counter that aren't paid for, be disrespectful when they're carded and stuff. I don't work that often there, but I can see how they feel away. But you also have to be mindful of how you're portraying yourself. Like, if you're going to be disrespectful, like if you're going to be rude to somebody, somebody's going to treat you away. If that makes sense. Personally, myself, if you're rude to me, I'm still going to be nice, but you just have to be mindful of how you treat other people. And someone also asked me, who goes to Neumann, how it is to be a person of color working there, and I told her there's two of us, literally. I never really felt like they treated me away there, but I also don't look for people to treat me away because of the color of my skin. Well, before, but now I definitely do. That's the only comment I had to say.
Thank you. And I think one thing to note, and Heather, we're going to come to you next. I think one thing that we should note is earlier at 11 o'clock, there was a conversation that was started about the community outside of Neumann or around Neumann and the impact that that would have on some of our students of color. A student called in or video chatted into Zoom, Isaiah, and he shared that he had some bad experiences at Wawa, particularly, and he had shared that he had been called the N-word. So I do want to say we don't know if that was on the side of a Wawa staff member or a member of the Aston community who was, patronizing Wawa. We don't know the specifics about that particular piece. I did want to just note that there, because I know I got some private messages earlier about what can we do against Wawa or with Wawa, given those concerns. I just wanted to share that one piece there. Heather, I was going to come to you next. Heather, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good
Okay,
afternoon.
sorry, I was muted still.
No, you're good.
I'm here from the TRIO program. I just wanted to say that I'm here as an ally. And kind of circling back to the beginning conversation, I just feel very sad and heartbroken for all of these stories. The video in the beginning, I was just, I think someone earlier used the word weeping. I was very upset seeing that. But I'm also feeling hopeful and super motivated. I feel selfish for having all of these feelings as a white person in this conversation. I feel unsure about the best thing to do, but I also have this very nervous, buzzing energy. I hear a lot of exhaustion from students and from the fellow Black staff members. So I just want to let you know that my work will be to better understand my privilege and then use the voice that I have through the privilege that I have. And I think Jessica earlier said in the chat to lift the Black community up. I appreciate all of you sharing all that you have. It's been very brave for you guys to share so vulnerably your stories, your thoughts and your feelings. So I want you to know that I appreciate you and I hear you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for your time and thanks for getting involved. Tiffany, we're going to come to you next. Tiffany.
So I just wanted to know, as I'm new to Neumann, so for those of you who don't know me, for anyone new on, again, I'm the project director for violence prevention. I'm coming from Lincoln University, which is a historically Black college and university. And so at Lincoln, we are centered in a predominantly white community. There's like some Amish land around as well. And so we have an advocate, being as though we are an HBCU, we had an advocate that went out into the community and formed relationships with those companies that, like Jada was talking about, like students may go in there a little disrespectful. Why are they going in there disrespectful? I know when Walmart first opened in Oxford, Pennsylvania, there was like some stealing going on. And so of course it was very easy to blame our students. And so we had an actual administrator that was like a community liaison that went and built relationships, not just with like the local courthouse and like the DA and all of that, and like the local police outside of Lincoln University police, but like also in the community with the restaurants and the hotels and the stores. So my question is, does Neumann have like something like that? I just came on board in January, so I'm not sure how that works, but I just feel as though a lot of these complaints, which I've actually experienced myself, I had to call corporate on Dollar Tree for going in there with a fellow Black colleague, and the lady refused to service me. And I had to call back and speak to the general manager and then escalate it to corporate, and they pulled the tapes and everything. And so in my short time, I've experienced disparity, or however you want to word it. And so I just want to know, like, who is the liaison from Neumann that goes into the community and says like, hey, we are a college town and how can we bridge this gap? How can we bridge these relationships? We even used to have them come. We had like convocations, and some of those owners would come on campus and speak to our students at like greater school convocations. So is there something like that at Neumann?
Well, I would turn the question or open up the floor to any of senior leadership to address that question, if anyone would want to do that, because I'm not able to answer that question. It's a good question, but that's not one I'm able to answer. So I don't know if Dr. Haug or Dean Bridget wanted to chime in to address that.
And if not, we can keep it and pocket it. I don't know where they are, but
Okay.
Just bringing it up.
So we'll put that question, and there are universities that do have community liaisons to enhance relationships between communities and colleges. So that's one that we'll leave in the parking lot, and not to be dismissive, but we'll do that. Maria Marks, I'm going to come to you next.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
I just wanted to comment on a few things. Several people have mentioned their faith, and Eric just shared a comment since Maya shared beautifully at the beginning about how she's kind of left and come back to her faith throughout this whole process. I've just been reflecting on how it's in these times of trial that we often either move closer to God or farther away from God. And as Neumann, or as Mrs. Ryder shared beautifully earlier, at Neumann we proclaim our faith and that we're a safe space to practice faith. And so I just wanted to speak on behalf of Mission and Ministry, and specifically campus ministry, for our students, that we are always open to holding prayer opportunities that you want to see, and creating safe spaces for prayer and reflection and hope, and especially in times like this. And so I encourage you to reach out to Patrick and I if there's something specific related to faith and prayer that you want to see ever happening on campus or even virtually throughout the summer. We're really happy to support you in doing that. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that story about someone walking on the beach. It's called Footprints in the Sand. And it's about this person who sees two sets of footprints the whole time he's walking, and it's him and Jesus. And then there's certain times when he only sees one set of footprints, and he said, "God, why did you leave me at that time?" And God says, "It's not when I left you, it's when I carried you." And I think at a school where service is so important to us, I think the service that's most important right now is carrying each other. And so in addition to offering space for prayer, I offer that we're here to carry each other, and I encourage us to carry each other throughout this time. Feel free to be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for sharing. And Tiffany, to your question about community relations with the university, Dr. Haug shared that he's not aware of a formal person. However, it is often our VP or Vice President for Advancement who handles university relations in that way. So maybe that's a resource we want to explore utilizing through some of these challenges that our students are having. And thank you again, Maria, for your comment. I wanted to see if we could go to Eric. Eric Kinney, you had shared a statement earlier, a little bit about faith that I wanted to jump on, and I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure you were able to share your thoughts. So there was an authentic expression of what you were trying to relay. So Eric, are you there? We're still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Eric, can you tell us about your comment?
Well, a lot of people touched on their faith, and you know, I grew up a little different. I'm Jewish, which I went to Catholic school, but regardless, I'm still Jewish. Anyway, but an idea that's sort of just been like in my head the last couple weeks is it's a Jewish saying called Tikkun Olam, which means to repair the world. And that's sort of just gone through my head throughout all of this. And I posted it a few times, whatever that helps. Anyway, but I just feel like it's an important message because it's, you know, like this is a time where we shouldn't be selfish and think like, oh, poor woe is me, whatever, but there's a bigger cause. And I feel like, you know, as we're all created in God's image and we're all, you know, equal, you know, it's our duty to, you know, help with that work of making everybody equal, whatever that might, you know, as we should be, and to repair the world. And by doing that, you know,
Well, thank you.
running out of words to say this, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing your comment. I know you got a lot of virtual love on the chat, and I wanted to make sure I was able to relay that with the group. Thank you for sharing that. And Janae, as we get closer to the last few minutes that we have with everyone, did you have any final statements you wanted to wrap up with?
I thought I dropped the mic on my last statement, Dries.
Okay. You
I think that, you know, again, I was just thanking everyone for being a part. We're looking forward to what is going to evolve from this, the actions. And if you have recommendations, I know that Dr. Domes just sent out an email to council members for the Diversity Council. And if you have recommendations, I know earlier someone said that it may be good to know who's the person who may be the representative for your area. I'm not sure of if that's all out there, but prayerfully that'll be shared out once the list is confirmed and members are confirmed, because I don't want to speak too prematurely as things may still be evolving with the council. But please, I tell students all the time, there is the Dean of Students office where you can submit incidents. Our doors are always open. Right now, we don't have any physical doors, but please email us. I've given my personal cell phone number out to students. Still have my work phone number, and let us know. It is always good to write down what is going on and what you experience, so that then we can at least have something to go back to and help to navigate that. So even though oral practices of communication and passing down of stories are good, it helps us to process those things with you. But incidents should not of any type of discrimination on any part of anyone's identity is never acceptable, and that is not what we stand for. So please make sure that you contact us, that you contact the Dean of Students, even if you're not comfortable there, or contacting telling a faculty member or another administrator. Dries and I are open. We will look at the email. We will make sure that we feed those things up, but you have to write it. You have to let us know, because we can go with you, but we can't necessarily tell your story for you. You have to tell your story, even if it's just in written form, because that gives power to the situation. So know that none of us are in this alone. That's one thing that I have had, and I appreciate, from Ms. Denise to Ms. Georgette and Stephanie Budai and Dries and Tiffany and so many others. Like, sometimes it's just comfortable to know and see people that look like you on campus that can support you. So I appreciate you all. I wanted to call you out. I appreciate all of the allies and advocates that we have, from Sister Pat and Sister, I don't even want to get into that. It's too many of you all to name that have come forward, but, we appreciate you. But now is work that has to be done. We have to take this dialogue to the next step. So thank you all. Aaron Kaplan just, and Bridget from, the Dean of Students area, they just sent in what is the link. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Aaron, for being readily available. And I just want to close out by saying thank you, Dries. He and I had this conversation because it really is tricky. We are two of the only Black administrators at Neumann, and I am, I'm always trying to grapple with what do we bring forward, what do we not. And Dries is like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I had this idea over the weekend. What are your thoughts? He's like, I'm thinking the same thing. Like, we just kind of come together. So I just want to, in front of everybody, say how much I appreciate you and your willingness to be open and to navigate and moderate this whole thing. Once I'm kind of scared sometimes to give Dries the idea, because he runs with it, and I'm like, stop texting me and calling me about it. Let's just keep it simple. But he took this and took it to the whole level, a whole nother level. Thank you all, to our students, to our Brothers Take Action. That was something else. I said, Dries, I want an advisory student committee for males. He was like, I want the same thing. Like, we have been talking about these things. And we started this advisory group, reached out to a few males, and they responded from a class where Ms. Denise let me come and speak. And from there, now we have Brothers Take Action, as well as a Hispanic and Latino Student Advisory Committee. We have a Women Student Advisory Committee. So if you know students that want to be a part, they are literally advising us on what the true student experience is and what we can do programmatically and systematically to address those needs. So we are here, we are working, and thank you, Dries, for moderating and doing everything. And this is the applause if we use ASL standards. So thank you everyone. And thank you, Dr. Haug, and thank you to all the leadership who has joined in and is being open and giving a listening ear to all that's taking place.
Thank you. And that's going to conclude part 2. and stay tuned for those next steps. Again, we also wanted to give a shout out to Father Stephen Thorne and his efforts. He also has part 3 of a discussion that he is going to be hosting, and that's going to be forthcoming within the next week. So make sure you stay tuned for those opportunities and experiences to be a part of too. Thanks again to the students and everyone else who was a part of joining and sharing and listening. Have a great day, everybody.